Thanks to Dashlane for keeping LegalEagle in the air.
So you don't work on a contingency basis?
No, money down. Oops, shouldn't have this bar association logo here either.
Yeah, he's just the best worst lawyer of all time. Hey Legal Eagles, it's time to think like a lawyer, and today we are covering one of my favorite episodes of one of my favorite series of all time. It's The Simpsons, and it's the episode where Itchy and Scratchy get taken to court for copyright infringement. It's called The Day the Violence Died. And while I will be reacting to it, I think I could probably quote this episode line for line. It's really that good. It's one of my favorites. It involves Lionel Hutz.
No, money down.
It's fantastic. So as always, be sure to comment in the form of an objection, which I will either sustain or overrule, and stick around until the end of the episode where I give The Simpsons, The Day the Violence Died, a grade for legal realism. So without further ado, let's dig into The Simpsons, The Day the Violence Died. So the background of this episode is that it is the 75th anniversary of Itchy and Scratchy, which is a clear stand-in for Disney, a much more violent version of the Walt Disney Corporation. And the town of Springfield is throwing a parade for the creators of Itchy and Scratchy, which includes Roger Meyers Sr., who's the guy who claims to have invented Itchy and Scratchy. The parade goes into Bumtown, where we find Bart about to meet a bum who claims to have invented Itchy and Scratchy himself.
Hey, wait up!
Get out of Bumtown, you no talent bum.
You
Show
bums.
some respect, man. That no talent created Itchy and Scratchy.
He didn't create Itchy, I did.
Huh?
He stole a character from me in 1928. When I complained, his thugs kicked me out of his office and dropped an anvil on me.
So this is interesting. This is a normal copyright issue. Great issues going on already. Here you have the theft of intellectual property and purportedly the theft of a character. Now, a character, as apart from normal literary or audiovisual work, can actually receive copyright protection. So for example, we've seen many times in litigation that James Bond has copyright protection as a character apart from all of the 30 or 40 James Bond movies that character has appeared in. So it is possible to quote unquote steal a character from a copyright perspective. But remember, you cannot steal ideas. Ideas are not copyrightable. It's only the expression itself. And I think that's going to be a big theme throughout this episode.
You invented Itchy? The Itchy and Scratchy Itchy?
Sure. In fact, I invented the whole concept of cartoon violence. Before I came along, all cartoon animals did was play the ukulele. I changed all that.
Well, I'm not calling you a liar, but I can't think of a way to finish that sentence.
Here we have another argument, which is that he invented the idea of cartoon violence. Now that almost certainly he would not be able to have copyright protection over. The idea of cartoon violence, or the idea of a romantic comedy, or the idea of a sci-fi space opera. These are what we call scenes of fare, which are not protectable. They are stock scenes that we see over and over and over again in many different industries and different types of IP. So he would not be able to have a claim for intellectual property over the idea of cartoon violence, even if cartoon characters were only just playing the ukulele before he came along.
Itchy the Lucky Mouse in Manhattan Madness.
That's the first Itchy cartoon ever made, and it was made by me, Chester J. Lampwick. Find me a 90-year-old projector and I'll prove it to you.
They go to this school. Okay, so right off the bat, this film canister contains the film of the original Itchy and Scratchy cartoon. The thing is, that is something that lends itself to a valid copyright. The thing about copyright is that you don't have to petition the government to get it. There are reasons why you would want to do that, but as soon as you put your expression into a tangible form that's supposed to be semi-permanent or permanent, that is when you get the copyright in the expression. expression. And this film reel is going to be something that could lend itself to creating a copyright in this film itself and in the character Itchy and or Scratchy. The concept of cartoon violence invented. Oh, so this is a great little tidbit here. It says copyright, that little C in the circle, 1919. In 1919, you actually had to put a copyright notice on any work that you had. If you didn't put a copyright notice on your tangible expression, then you would not get a copyright. So back in the day, it was really, really important to have that little symbol to let everyone know that this was a copyrighted work. So if Chester J. Lampwick had not put that notice on his film, he would not have a copyright and he wouldn't have any claim to the Itchy and Scratchy fortune. The United States did away with that requirement in 1976 in the 1976 Copyright Act, which it really wasn't necessary at all, and it was a trap for the unwary to not include a copyright notice in your actual expression. So now you still get a copyright regardless of whether you put the little C with the date that says that there's a copyright on your particular work.
That was Itchy, all right. You did invent him. When people see this, you'll be rich and famous. Doh.
Yeah, as an evidentiary issue, that makes it much, much harder to prove your case.
Well, that brought back a lot of memories.
I can't believe it's a law firm. Okay, there are actual regulations that prescribe what lawyers are allowed to put in terms of the name of their firms, and that name absolutely does not comply with that. And it sort of implies that it's not actually a law firm, although query whether Lionel Hutz is actually an attorney in The Simpsons, given his run-ins with the bar. Lionel Hutz is my favorite character ever. He's so good.
All right, gentlemen, I'll take your case, but I'm going to have to ask for a $1,000 retainer.
$1,000? But your ad says no money down.
Oh, they got this all screwed up.
As I've covered already on this channel, this is one of my favorite lawyer jokes of all time, and it so plays into Lionel Hutz as being the most ridiculous, terrible lawyer of all time. This is such a clear violation of legal ethics where you can't put out an ad like that to the public and then completely redline it right in front of your potential client and claim that you only work with a retainer and money down. But the way that it works is just so perfect. It's so good.
So you don't work on a contingency basis?
No, money down. Oops, shouldn't have this bar association logo here either.
Yeah, he's just the best, worst lawyer of all time.
I thought I recognized you. I gave you a plate of corn muffins back in 1947 to paint my chicken coop, and you never did it.
Those corn muffins were lousy.
Paint my chicken coop.
Make me.
Yeah, that would be a totally enforceable contract. Corn muffins for painting the chicken coop. And Chester J. Lampwick would be in violation of that contract for not actually providing his labor. I think the statute of limitations is probably run there now that it's 80 years in the future, but it would have been an enforceable contract.
Wait. There's an easy way to get rid of Chester without the guilt of sending him back to the gutter. And all it will cost you is $1,000.
Got legal fees from some family. Okay, quick note. It is possible to bankroll someone else's lawsuit. Now, traditionally, historically, that has been illegal. That's been what's called champerty, and that's been a violation of legal ethics. Those rules have largely been removed, and it is possible to bankroll someone else's lawsuit. This actually happened very recently when Peter Thiel, the tech billionaire, financed Hulk Hogan's lawsuit against Gawker, the website, for publishing Hulk Hogan's sex tape. This is a part of a great book by Ryan Holiday called Conspiracy that talks about Peter Thiel wanting to get revenge against Gawker. So he bankrolled this lawsuit that eventually bankrupted the Gawker media enterprise. So it is possible to do. It is legal. Might not be the nicest thing to do, but you are allowed to do it.
Exhibit A, Steamboat Itchy, dated 1928. The very first Itchy and Scratchy cartoon. And the credits clearly state, written, directed, and created by Roger Meyers. Music by Roger Meyers and George Gershwin. Produced by Roger Meyers and Joseph P. Kennedy. Copyright 1928 by Roger Meyers.
So we've already talked about how important that copyright notice was. I don't know why they are jumping right to closing argument here. There would normally be years of discovery and motions on paper. This is the sort of thing that would be dealt with on summary judgment because there's no evidence on behalf of Chester J. Lampwick. But as with most fictional portrayals of legal proceedings, they're just skipping right to the juicy parts.
You will also notice Mr. Meyer's name and copyright notice on the original drawings of the other members of the Itchy and Scratchy family. Brown-nosed bear, disgruntled goat, flatulent fox, rich Uncle Skeleton, and dinner dog.
My client's film predates all of those things, Your Honor.
You can't argue in the middle of a statement.
Oh, yes, I've forgotten. Your famous film, the one you destroyed before the trial and haven't been able to find another copy of. Oh, yes, that film.
Yes. You don't have a copy, do you?
Now, that sounds ridiculous, and it is ridiculous in the middle of trial like that. But in real life, Lionel Hutz would have been able to ask if the owners of Itchy and Scratchy have old copies of the 1919 film that is the basis for his claim. And if they did, they would be obligated to turn that over. Now, you might think that's crazy, that why would you turn over negative evidence against yourself? Well, the rules of civil discovery require you to turn it over because we don't want trial by ambush. We want everyone to put all of their cards on the table. And if there's evidence that you have that's bad for your case, you have a duty to turn that over to the other side if you get to that part of the discovery process. So Lionel Hutz, he's a terrible lawyer, but even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes. So good job for him.
Roger Meyers didn't create any of his characters. He stole them all.
Stole them all? Why, that could turn the whole piece around.
The only characters Meyers could ever come up with were pathetic stick figures with the words sarcastic horse and manic mailman printed on them. And they stank.
So who is the voice of Chester J. Lampwick? That sounds really... Hold on a second. I need to look this up because that guy sounds really familiar. It's Kirk Douglas. Oh, I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
Mr. Hutz, we've been in here for 4 hours. Do you have any evidence at all?
Well, Your Honor, we've got plenty of hearsay and conjecture. Those are kinds of evidence.
That's actually true. Hearsay and conjecture are kinds of evidence. They're not good forms of evidence, but technically they are types of evidence. Many of the lawyers that I know use that line all the time. It's a staple among lawyers. It's fantastic.
I knew I had seen this exact scene somewhere else. It was in the movie Mr. Lampwick showed me. Ladies and gentlemen, this drawing was made in 1919, 9 years before Roger Meyers made his first Itchy and Scratchy cartoon.
Yeah, but how do we know that that's authentic? There's a whole authentication process that you have to go through to prove that the evidence that you are putting forward is what it purports to be. I don't think this evidence would be admissible at this point.
Okay, maybe my dad did steal Itchy, but so what? Animation is built on plagiarism. If it weren't for someone plagiarizing the Honeymooners, we wouldn't have the Flintstones. If someone hadn't ripped off Sergeant Bilko, there'd be no Top Cat. Huckleberry Hound, Chief Wiggum, Yogi Bear, Andy Griffith.
One of the all-time great sight gags of The Simpsons is to break the fourth wall and say that the idea of Chief Wiggum is stolen from somewhere else. Just A+. And there's some truth to what he's saying, that these characters are often homages and frankly stolen from other places. So whether you get copyright protection over a specific character itself is up for grabs. And not all taking is illegal. Not all copying is illegal.
Well, Itchy and Scratchy are gone, but here's a cartoon that tries to make learning fun. Sorry about this, kids.
Oh, I know what this is. This is one of the most brilliantly written parodies of all time. I can sing this entire song.
Hey, who left all this garbage on the steps of Congress?
I'm not garbage. I'm an amendment to be. Yes, an amendment to be. And I'm hoping that they'll ratify me. There's a lot of flag burners who have got too much freedom. I wanna make it.
First Amendment violation.
Make it legal for policemen to beat them, cause there's limits to our liberties. At least I hope and pray that there are, cause those liberal freaks go too far.
Dad, can we have $183,000?
What for?
Lisa and I want to finance a series of animated cartoons.
Oh, forget it.
Animation legal precedent, copyright law 1918 and 1923. That is such a great little detail there, because there actually was an amendment to the Copyright Act in 1923 that changed copyright law. And in fact, because of the change in copyright law, all works before 1923 are out of copyright. So ironically, although the litigation over this case of a copyright from 1919 is raging in this episode, now looking back, all of this would be out of copyright. The copyright in Itchy and Scratchy would be null and void, and all of that stuff would have entered into the public domain. So it's a great little detail that they are looking at the correct copyright law for the time. And since the work was created in 1919, you'd have to look at the law that existed before the Copyright Act of 1923, because that's how you sort of retroactively apply the law. Just from top to bottom, one of the best Simpsons episodes of all time.
When no one could think of a plan to resurrect Itchy and Scratchy, a young boy, a wonderful, irrepressible young boy, took it on his own to solve the problem. He discovered that the Postal Service's Mr. Zip was just a ripoff of my father's stick figure character, Manic Mailman. So the government gave me a huge cash settlement.
So that sounds totally ridiculous, and there are still the questions of whether you could even have a copyright in a not really thought out character like that. But a situation almost exactly like that actually did happen in a famous case involving the US Postal Service. The US Postal Service created a stamp where they took a photo of the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C., which is a series of statues with soldiers who were wading through the snow, and they put it on a stamp. The thing is, the artist who created the statues still had a copyright in the statues. You can have a copyright in statues, just like you can have a copyright in paintings or a novel. So when they created this stamp without his permission, they committed copyright infringement in the same way that the US Postal Service supposedly created copyright infringement in this particular case. So things like that actually do happen, and you can sometimes get a big cash settlement from the government when they involve copyright infringement.
And Itchy and Scratchy Studios is back in business. Thanks to you, Lester.
What the hell is going on?
And they end the episode poking fun at the fact that their own characters are derivative. Just so good. But now it's time to give this episode of The Simpsons a grade for legal realism. So on the one hand, you have a brilliant story involving some really detailed aspects of copyright law that you really don't see all that often. And for the most part, it gets the copyright stuff exactly right down to the dates involved where the copyright law changed. You have probably one of the best depictions of a Schoolhouse Rock parody that is not only, I think, hilarious, but exactly right on First Amendment law. But on the other hand, you have a trial that is abbreviated to be the shortest trial known to man, without any of the boring parts, and the worst lawyer known to man in the form of Lionel Hutz. But in some sense, the writers must know what they're doing, because there's no way to write a lawyer that bad without knowing what a lawyer should do. So all in all, I will give this episode of The Simpsons an A-. Maybe I'm giving them a high grade just because I love this episode so much, but it's my show, and I can do whatever I want.
There's something unsettling about that.
The ideas for Itchy and Scratchy may have been stolen, but your passwords and payment information should never be. And Dashlane gives you an all-in-one tool to protect yourself online. Dashlane syncs all of your passwords and payment details between all of your devices without ever knowing those passwords. When you sign up for Dashlane, you choose a master password that is never transmitted over the internet. Not even Dashlane to their servers has your password. You enter your password once on each of your devices, and then you never have to think about it again. Dashlane protects your identity across the internet by providing a tool that generates strong passwords, stores them, and autofills them securely everywhere on the internet, all completely seamlessly, even across laptops and phones running different operating systems. So even Roger Meyers can't steal your passwords. And for extra security, Dashlane Premium also includes dark web monitoring and a VPN, which acts as an intermediary to make sure that all of your internet traffic is encrypted, even when you're on public Wi-Fi. Dashlane does all of this in one product for one low price instead of requiring you to buy multiple solutions. With Dashlane, you're getting a password manager, a VPN, and dark web monitoring for less than what just one of those services would usually cost. So try Dashlane free for 30 days at the link down below in the doobly-doo, and if you like it, you can get 10% off Dashlane Premium by using the promo code LegalEagle at checkout. So, do you agree with my grade? Leave your objections in the comments, and check out my other real lawyer reactions over here, where I'll see you in court.